it was such an important game because I think straight away after Liverpool, which was sensational, any win at Anfield just feels rare and special when you're a Manchester United player or a fan. But then all the way through the week, you've just got that thing in the back of your mind. Don't mess it up now. Don't cock it up. You know what I mean? Don't go back the way. Don't take one step forward and three back, because you'll end up back where you're questioning the manager again, you're questioning the system again. So it was such an important game, not just for the three on the row. It was obvious that Manchester United would go up into the top six, not maybe as gloriously as they have with all the other teams losing that have lost up there. But it was obvious that Manchester United were going to sail back up the league, and it was a game they couldn't lose. And Brighton have got a great record against United. But I thought the football was good. I actually thought in the first 10 minutes, what I actually was most impressed with United was in the first 10 minutes, I thought that what they did, they tried to go a little bit high press. And I saw De Ligt jumping out onto Welbeck. Shaw was really aggressive and had to continue to be aggressive. But what it meant was that they felt like there was gaps everywhere for Minte and Welbeck and Kadioglu on the right hand side to run through. And I thought, this is going to be dangerous. This is going to be a problem. And I think they got a couple of warning signs, and then they just sat back a little bit.
The biggest problem right now is that the coach keeps repeating the same tactics that clearly aren't working. Week after week, we're watching the same 3-4-2-1 setup, and week after week, the results remain disappointing. It's frustrating for the fans, and it raises serious questions about his flexibility and adaptability at the top level. Now, when you look at great modern managers, they've always been willing to adapt. Take Xabi Alonso as a perfect example. When he first arrived at Real Madrid, he didn't stubbornly force his 3-4-2-1 onto the players immediately. He realized very quickly that the squad was better suited to a 4-3-3. He allowed that system to breathe, he allowed the players to feel comfortable, and from there, he built his own style. That is the mark of a manager who understands balance between his philosophy and the reality of the squad he's working with. And this is the Premier League, not the Portuguese league. The level of competition is brutal here. Every mistake gets punished. Every tactical flaw gets exposed. You cannot simply stick to one system and hope it will click with time. You have to evolve, you have to innovate, and above all, you have to respect the nature of the league you're working in. Ask yourself this: how many coaches in the Premier League are really flourishing with a 3-4-2-1 system? Not many. It's not a formation that consistently thrives in this environment. The intensity, the pressing, the athleticism of the league often requires different structures, whether that's the balance of a 4-3-3, the solidity of a 4-2-3-1, or even the unpredictability of a 3-5-2. Sticking to a 3-4-2-1 in every game is like banging your head against a brick wall. The outcome will never change. There's an old saying that perfectly applies here. If you don't change the systems that produce the results you don't want, you'll keep experiencing the results you don't want. Right now, that is exactly the trap this coach has fallen into. The same tactical setup, the same failings, and the same poor results. Fans don't see progression. They don't see hope. They just see stubbornness. Think back to Sir Alex Ferguson, one of the greatest managers football has ever seen. Ferguson was never tied down to one tactical shape. He could use 2 or even 3 tactical adjustments in a single match if the situation demanded it. He adapted to his players, he adapted to his opponents, and that's one of the key reasons why he dominated English football for so long. So the message is clear. If this coach truly wants to succeed in the Premier League, he needs to take a long, hard look at his approach. The 3-4-2-1 is not working, and the longer he clings to it, the more damaging it will be, not just for him, but for the entire club. Change isn't a weakness, it's a necessity. The Premier League rewards managers who evolve and punishes those who don't. Right now, the choice is simple: adapt or get left behind.
6 or 7. But the way in which this season's panning out, the 3 weeks that they've got to prepare between every game is a massive advantage to be able to get everybody ready and sort of keep everybody fit. So, yeah, a lot of... And we're only a week or so away where I was thinking the manager's under pressure, by the way, so we've got to be really careful here because we could be there again in a couple of weeks. It's that type of season. It's that type of feeling. But there's something there that I like. What I do like also is that, and I hear this, a few weeks ago I was worried about the players buying into the system and the way of playing, and I truly was. But what I was never worried about was the fact that this idea that, sometimes when you hear managers have lost the changing room, no, that's never happened with Amorim. They really like him. I think they like him a lot, the players. They think that, you can see that when he speaks on something. He's authentic, he's honest to a fault at times, really, when you think about his press conferences. But how can you have a go at someone for being honest? So I think the players really like him and want to do well for him. And I think that's come through in the last week or so. So it's been a really good week for United. Amorim's best week in the job, his most important week in the job, but got to keep going. Nottingham Forest next weekend. Just make every game a must-win, because the fact of the matter is it keeps everybody happy. You know, if Manchester United can win at Forest next week, and they can win at Forest next week. They're going to have to compete, but they can win at Forest next week. They go for a big game against Tottenham, I think, in a couple of weeks, and that'll be really interesting. So I think, look, where they were pre-international break to post-international break, I think it's been a big period for Ruben Amorim. He's got himself back on track. I think people are now just starting to think, right, okay, something could happen here for him.
Yeah. I think one final item, and that is for me to say congratulations to you on your entry into the Premier League Hall of Fame. I thought it was a lovely image, because I know Brian Robson is your boyhood hero.
Yeah.
He handed it over to you. So as brief or as long as you want, a word on winning that. It must have meant a fair bit to you.
Do you know something? I got told about it about a week ago. I didn't know that Brian was presenting me the trophy. So that was a surprise yesterday. So when he walked down the tunnel and I was there, I mean, for the Manchester United fans will know that he's my absolute hero. If you're between the ages of, well, I don't know, 45 and maybe 55, 60, Brian Robson was your hero. Simple as that. You'll have loved Norman Whiteside, you'll have loved Mark Hughes, you'll have loved Gordon McQueen, you'll have loved other players along the way, Arthur Albiston and everybody, but Brian Robson was the man. He was the man that sort of, in a time where Manchester United weren't winning league titles, was the shining light. A incredible player, someone who I think set the standards for England and for Manchester United, and was my hero without a shadow of a doubt, my inspiration in my childhood, and also someone who actually I was blessed to have played in his very last game. My Premier League debut was Brian Robson's very last game in the Premier League for Manchester United, so that was a special moment back in 1994. 31 years ago. So yeah, it was a really nice moment. I don't really do sort of personal accolades. I used to sometimes get voted into the PFA Team of the Year, and I used to think that was a really nice thing. And similarly yesterday, the fact that award was voted for by the 24 people who'd won the actual award previously, I think makes it more special, because they're the people who used to play against and play with, and then obviously back in the day, the PFA team was exactly the same. So, yeah, I always feel incredibly lucky and privileged to just have played under the greatest manager, with an incredible staff, with great captains and great players alongside me that elevated me, inspired me every single day when I went into that changing room. And my football career seems like a distant memory, feels like it never existed sometimes. I always feel like, I'm 13, 14 years out of the game, but it just feels so long ago now. But it will always be the most